Well, hey everyone, and welcome to the Unity tutorial on scriptable object skills. So in this tutorial, I'm going to make two different kind of skills. I'm going to make a range skill, which would be a fireball, and then we'll do a physical skill, which would be a body slam technique. Let's go ahead and get on into this. So we got a blank scene. We'll go ahead and create a player. Just be a regular empty game object. Matter of fact, yeah, that'd be fine. Scene, we'll do that. We'll go ahead and add a sprite renderer to it. Go. And sprite that we'll give it is dragon sprite here. Be a tile. Real quick, we'll create a folder. Our textures. Sprites. Alright, we'll drag it in here. Right. Alright. Come over here. It's 16 by 16. Drop the size to 32. We want no point. Go ahead and set that. It'll be a single sprite, 100 pixels per unit. That's fine. We don't need to mess with you. Normally this is 6 static. That's what it is. And compression. I'll do it. Apply. Go ahead and split it out for you. Now we can go ahead and give that to our players. Simple. Right. Okay. So there's a little player. We'll go ahead and put him there. And we said we wanted to create a fireball. So what we'll do is, let's go ahead and get our script set up first. So let's go ahead and create a C# script called skill. That's done compiling. Go ahead and open that up. Studio. Opened up the window so I can go ahead and drag it over. Loading. All right. Over. There we go. All right, zoomed in for us all and everything. So we got a skill, and it's actually going to be a scriptable object. So we don't need any of this. And we'll go ahead and make this a scriptable object. Like that. What are some of the things we're going to need? Well, we can go ahead and give it a public string variable for the skill name. We can give it a public sprite of what it should look like. We'll want a public abstract void initialize function. Going to take a game object called object. So what that's going to do is basically this is how we're going to initialize the skill to the object. So like if it's going to be a melee skill, we want to use we'd initialize it to the player, because we're going to do a body slam skill, and the body slam skill is going to project and move the player's body in a certain direction. So we're going to want to modify the transform on the game object who owns it. As far as a fireball, then the game object could be wherever you want to shoot the fireball from. We're going to go ahead and make this an abstract class. We don't want to make an instance of a base class. And we're going to go over here, make that up. And then now we're going to make another abstract function. What else going on? All right. Call it use. Basically, we're just going to call this function whenever we actually want to use the skill. And this is just going to set up our base class as what it is. So that is, go ahead and minimize that. Okay. Reloaded. And it did. Awesome. So now, base class, scriptable object. Can't just go create a skill, but what we can do, come into here, we're going to create another script called Fireball. Thought it was going to load, but it didn't. There we go. Okay, so this one's going to inherit from skill. Okay, so it'll be a scriptable object. In here, do this. Yelling at me because it doesn't implement the inherited thing, so we'll go ahead and implement the behavior. This in a second. So it'll stop yelling at us. So we'll come here. Now we need to go ahead and create the asset menu so we can go and create it that way. So asset menu. We'll give it menu name. Set to skills. And then this will be a fireball. All right. So what are some of the things a fireball is going to need? Well, we know we can shoot it. It's going to be ranged. So it should be able to do a damage. Okay, should have a public variable for damage. We'll this over here. What else should it have? Well, we're going to go ahead and create a prefab of what the fireball and everything looks like. So what we can do is we'll put a public game object and we'll call it fireball instance. So this will hold a reference to the prefab that we're going to use, which we're going to instantiate into the scene and actually fire off when we shoot. We're going to want to use a, we can do that for now. We can put a public float force variable, like how much we want to go, force we want to use when shooting out the fireball. So we'll have a force of damage fireball instance. We'll use a private transform variable. This is going to hold our spawn position of where we want to spawn the fireball. And then we can do a private variable for the direction we want to shoot the fireball in. So there we go. So inside of initialize, what we'll do is we want to initialize it, we'll set the spawn position. Go down. There we go. Set the spawn position to the pass-in objects transform. So wherever we want to spawn it from, we're just going to spawn, like we're going to give this an object that say, hey, this is where I want you to spawn from, and it's going to set the reference in here. The force we can just set for default 500, and we can do a damage of 10. So anytime we hit something, it'll be just a damage of 10 by default. Okay. Before we start going into use, because it's going to be a lot, let's go ahead and set up our prefab. So create prefabs folder. So let's go and create an empty game object, and we'll call it fireball. Okay, not plus, fireball. Okay, so that'll be this. And fireball is going to have a sprite renderer, which the sprite is going to have is, bringing that one over too. This is one I found on the internet. Bring it in here. Fireball. It's a 256 by 128. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. The highest it is. We want no compression. Point filter. This is all pixel art, so we'll keep it to point filter. Leave that alone. This is a sprite. The single. We can just leave that alone. Deal is that. We're gonna actually put 250. That there. Okay. Generate physics. Height. Normal quality. Compression none. There we go. I got a little fireball. Woo! So we'll come into here and we'll give it the sprite. Bam. And we'll move it over a little bit. We'll leave it right there. So now we got a little fireball. Okay. Well, that's all cool and stuff. So we know it's going to generate physics upon it, and it should be able to collide with things. So what we need to do is we're going to need a rigid body and a box collider. So we'll do rigid body. Okay. We're going to set the constraints. We don't want it to rotate in the x-axis or the y-axis, and we don't want it to move in the z-axis. I'm setting this up because this is based on 2 dimensions. So if you're in 2 dimensions and you don't want to move on the z-axis, you just want to move left and right, up and down. So you would want to freeze the position in z so it won't ever move in z. And when you rotate, it should only be able to rotate in the z-axis. So if you rotate in the z-axis, the way my mouse is rotating right now, this is a z-axis rotation. That's what we want. We don't want it flipping in the other kind of directions. So we leave that alone. We do not want gravity on this. Do not. We don't want it kinematic. We want it to be affected by forces. Okay, so that'll be that. And then we'll finish it with box collider. Like that. We'll keep that unchecked for the moment. And then we'll save it. Go into the prefabs folder. Drop it in there. So that's our prefab. And then we can go and just delete it from the scene because we're not going to need it right now. Do that. Now, let's go and finish up our script here. So, using it. What does that mean when we're going to use it? Well, what we want to do is I want to be able to instantiate the prefab. We want to figure out the direction we're going to shoot it. We want to rotate the prefab so it actually aims in the correct direction that it is actually traveling in. We want to apply the force so it'll move, and when it hits something, it should be able to destroy itself and do damage to whatever it hit. So the way we're going to do that is, let's start off with instantiating the object. So we'll do a game object. Call it clone skill prefab. We'll go and instantiate fireball instance, an instance of that. And the transform, we want it to spawn at the spawn position. Dot position. Okay. And then we want to also give it the rotation of where it's spawned at. So spawn position dot rotation. Okay. That's going to go ahead and instantiate that for us. Awesome. Well, what we want to do is we want to shoot it in the direction of the mouse. So what that means is if I'm shooting from where the player is, if I have the mouse over here and I press the E key, whatever button that you're going to use to fire the projectile, you want it to shoot from the player in this direction to the mouse, or from the player to here, or to here, or here. This is what we're going to do right now. So here, first, we need to to get the mouse position. We can get that by doing input.mouse position. Then we want to take the mouse position .z, set it to camera.main, which is the main camera, transform dot position dot z times -1. So that way it'll offset with the camera. We want to do that because if you go and look at the main camera is set to -10. So whatever position it is, you want to just make sure that it's going to be a negative number, so it'll be negative along with the camera. So we'll go ahead and do that. Come down here. Now we're going to get the displacement vector. The displacement vector is going to be between the mouse and basically the muzzle position, like where you're going to be shooting from. So the way we get that is we're going to do camera.main screen to world point. So we're going to take it from screen coordinates, put it in world point, and we're getting the mouse position that we grabbed. Okay, and we're going to subtract that number. We're going to subtract that vector from the clone skill prefab position. So basically what's happening is, hey, I want you to grab the vector in world space of where the mouse is and the position of the where the skill prefab has just spawned. So basically from the muzzle to the mouse, I want you to grab that. It just subtracts the two vectors and it comes back with the displacement vector. And so what we do from here is we need to get the direction. The way you get a direction, we'll set the private direction that we have. We're going to set that to the displacement vector dot normalized. Normalize a vector. You're finding out what direction this vector is pointing in. A normalized vector is the direction that a vector is pointing in. If you get the magnitude of a vector, you're getting the length of it, the size of it. But we need the direction, not the size of it. So we'll go ahead, displacement.normalize, and grab the direction. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to find out how we're going to rotate the fireball. Because if you notice, you know what, I'll show you what it does without the rotation first. So we got the displacement vector, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go and grab clone skill prefab. We're going to get a component. The component that we're going to get, the rigid body component. And we're going to go and add force to it. And the force that we're going to use is we're going to shoot it in the direction times the amount of force we told it to have. And we're going to set the force mode to force. As you can see, it says adds a continuous force to the rigid body using its mass. So it's just going to add a constant force to it. It's not going to accelerate or anything like that. It's just going to be just shot out. Okay, so it's going to be shot. It's going to be add this amount of force in this amount of direction. That's going to shoot that. And use, okay, so that should work. So we need to actually use this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and create an instance. This. So what we do is, this is the player. We'll rename it player so we don't get confused. Alright, so we're going to come into here. And assets, we'll go ahead and just create a folder called skills. Where did they put in the folder? So we'll do skills. Okay. Out of here, go right click, create. You should see skills, fireball. Okay, so we got a fireball, and then we'll just call it fireball. Okay, skill name. Just name it whatever you want. Fireball. The sprite, you know what sprite to reference. This one's going to be the sprite. Now, we're not actually using this at the moment because we already made a prefab for it. So, but this is like in case you wanted to go and put it inside of a skill tree somewhere, you can reference the sprite from here. Fireball instance is actually going to be, we'll lock this, actually going to be here. This is what we're going to instantiate. The force, we want to use the force to 500, and damage will be 10. Cool. We got our fireball set up. Well, now we need to do something with it. So what we're going to do, we'll come into here, and assets, scripts folder, create a folder, call it script. And inside of here, we'll just do like player controller. What we'll call it. You can name it however you want. This will be a mono behavior. Okay, let it load. Really cool that it does that, but generate the player controller. There we go. Cool. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna need a public reference to a skill. And then we'll just call it, skill. Not how you spell skill. Very close. Yoke. Okay. There you go. We're gonna go ahead and do that. And let's see what else we got. Go ahead and do that. We need to have an instance of the skill, so we. Okay. So what we're gonna do is inside of here, remember we gotta do skill.initialize. It's got to take a game object. So what we can do is have a reference. Let's see, where do we want to shoot it from? We're going to shoot it. Let's see. We don't want to shoot it directly from the player. We can take this off. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead, create a child object, create empty, and we'll call it skill spawn. And we'll make it a child of the player. Okay. And then we can go look in the scene, find out where this thing is. It's gonna be spawned right here. But we don't want it to spawn directly in the player. So like a fireball should be like, maybe in front of the player a little bit. So do like the x-axis or something. Look at this from a x and y position. Great. Let's flip it around. We'll do this. There we go. Now to go to the right when I move this. Awesome. We'll just say it shoots right here, just for the sake of this. And we'll shoot it like a 0.5 different. We'll actually do it like 1 unit. No, 5's good. We'll deal with that. We'll just say that's where the skill's gonna spawn at. Okay. This is for like a ranged attack. I'll get to why we're gonna do that in a minute. So he's gonna have a player control script. Okay. Initialize is going to take a game object. We know this is going to be hooked on the player, so we can just do, if we want, this public game object spawn location. And you can just do this and set that in here. It's going to be initialized to the spawn location. So there you go. Awesome. Well, it's initialized, so remember, it's going to go into here, it's going to set up the force, the damage, going to set the transform so it instantiates. We want to do this. So for simplicity's sake, we'll just do if input dot get key down, and we'll do key code. So if this happens, the frame that you press the E down, we're going to go ahead into that skill. We're going to do use. So basically, when you press the E button, it's going to shoot the fireball. So we grab the skill, the spawn location, initialize it, and shoot it when we press the button. So when we come back into here, okay, we got the player. It needs a reference to a skill. So we will lock this. We got the skill spawn. Skill here, we got fireball. There you go. So that all that's set up. So now what should happen is I'm going to keep the mouse right here. And when I hit play, I'm going to press the E key. When I press the E key, there should be a spawn. There should be a fireball that spawns in front of the player. And it actually just keeps going in the direction of the mouse. Indefinitely. There you go. It actually spawns it. Now you notice how the rotation on it, that just looks crazy. Well, we're going to fix that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go into here, and in the fireball, this is where we're going to update the rotation. So right here, we instantiate the fireball. In here, we are going to get the mouse position. Okay. And then get the displacement. We're going to get the displacement for the direction. We're going to set the direction. Now, what we want to do is we want to get the rotation on the Z-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a float called rotation Z, and it's going to be set to mathf dot atan2 returns the angle in radians whose tangent is y divided by x. Let me explain what that means. In school or at some point, you would learn that when you're using triangles, there are sine, cosine, and tangent. To calculate tangent, you would do the adjacent length. The opposite over adjacent is the formula for it. So that would be the opposite side over the adjacent side. The opposite side in this case would be the y-axis, and the adjacent side would be the x-axis. It actually shows that right there. So what we want is we want the tangent of that direction that we just created. Direction dot the x, and then the direction dot y. Okay, that's what we would want there. Times mathf dot radians to degrees, because this is going to return radians. We don't want radians, we want degrees. And then that's going to return the rotation. Now we actually have to apply this rotation to the fireball. So we'll go to the clone skill prefab. Clone skill prefab, and we'll do dot transform dot rotation, which is going to be a quaternion. So we'll need to create a new quaternion dot Euler. We're not rotating in the x, we're not rotating in the y, we're rotating at negative rotation z plus negative 90 degrees. Do this. Reason we're doing 90 is because of the way the current sprite is formed. The current sprite points to the left. If it would have been pointing to the right, you would have had a plus 90 here, not a negative. So when we come into here now, and we shoot a fireball, see? Look at the rotation. Yeah. That looks about right. You can just spam it as much as you want. Look how awesome that looks. That's pretty cool. So, and in the current situation, yeah, the fireball doesn't really destroy itself. They kind of just linger out there. So real quick, what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and create the script called, we'll go ahead and leave that be, and then in the next episode I'm going to go ahead and add some objects in the scene that are going to have collision, so when we shoot the fireball it's actually going to do damage, and then later on we'll move into the body slams. So from now, this is where I'm going to stop. The fireball is set up. There'll be a little bit more code we're going to add to that later, but we will surely get to that. So thank y'all for coming and hang out. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. Later.